we are always more sensitive to the power differential looking up at those that have some power over us.
Yep.
And we sometimes completely miss it looking down at those we have some power over to us.
Ethan Nash.
Mike Nash.
Here we are.
Here we are.
I love these conversations.
I love these conversations.
Are you just going to say everything I say?
Yeah, that's how you podcast, right?
All right. That makes it easy. Yeah, dude, we have so many things we want to talk about this year, but today I have been, well, it's for the last month or so, I've been thinking again about this topic that we have talked about a lot, which is called the power differential.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's the, the obvious, easy way to describe it, the idea that somebody has organizational authority over somebody else. That's the power differential. I'm finding that it's underappreciated. And by underappreciated, I mean understood. I don't think people get, I think that people have a really hard time understanding. And when I say people, I include myself. I think I've been in lots of management roles in my life. Even as a consultant, I lose the thread sometimes on this. In that, as a manager, and this includes the folks I spend time coaching, I think it's easy to forget that there is this dynamic going on between the manager and the employee that the employee fully is aware of. The employee feels it. It impacts them. It sometimes gets in the way. It's a lens through which they experience almost everything that you do as a manager. But as a manager, we don't see that. We don't feel that because we don't actually have a power differential from us to the employee, right? So we just don't get it. Yeah. And I think that it's important that we explore what is the power differential and why it matters and ways to kind of make sure it doesn't get in the way quite as much. So.
Yeah. And I think even that, it did a pretty good job of defining exactly what the power differential is. But let's just maybe review just maybe a kind of a clear definition of what is the power differential in the context of the workplace manager.
Yeah, it's really made up of these three components. The main component, I guess, is I, as a manager, have, quote, power over this other adult. And whether you like it or not, they know that. So I, as a manager, for example, I'm going to influence your reputation by who I talk to, what I say about you to my boss, what I say about you to HR. I'm influencing your reputation, which is a big deal, right? I have control over hours or time, or whether you get to have the vacation next summer you want, or the opportunities to grow, or to change tasks, or who you work with. I mean, you spend more than half your waking hours, in a sense, under my control, which is kind of weird when you think about adults having control over other adults.
Yeah. And I think where people get confused with this and why people miss it is they're like, well, that's not the kind of manager I am. I'm not, I'm not a power hungry manager. I didn't, read the 48 Laws of Power or whatever that book is. Like, and I'm not Machiavellian. It's like I have a lot of trust and respect. My employees like me.
Yes.
I'm not authoritarian.
Yes.
And it's like, and that might be true. Like all of that stuff is very likely true.
Yep.
But they still feel the power you have over them, even if they have a lot of trust and respect with you, and they like you, and whatever that might be.
You've said that really well, because I think that is the roadblock for managers. I think they miss the power differential because they're just nice people and they have good relationships, and they don't get. And here's the bottom line: when I'm in a relationship with somebody who has power over me, I can't help but try to keep myself safe, and I do that consciously and not consciously. Right? And so you might be a great manager and you might treat me well, but there's a part of me that always knows that you have control over me, which means that I'm at risk. So I'm going to be careful to some degree.
Absolutely.
And that's the power. That's a part of the power differential right there.
It's there whether you want it to be or not, whether you think it's there or not, whether you like it or not, and not to put too fine of a point on this, but it's not just there when something is wrong in the manager-employee relationship,
Right.
which is usually where I see a lot of managers go to first.
Yes.
It's a power differential is there when something is off, bad, or wrong. It's
Right.
like, no, it's there
All the time.
all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, it just recently I was talking to a client, and his noticing the power differential between him and his boss was a look that he perceived the boss gave him during a meeting. This employee was somewhat stressed out about this look, and we'd explored how that would have felt if it had been a peer.
Well, you failed to mention that the look was he stuck his tongue out.
Yeah, he thumbed his nose at it.
Yeah,
No, it was just a couple an extra second of eye contact is really what it was. And I asked him, how would that have felt if it was a peer? And he said he described how completely different and how completely different he would have interpreted it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a result of the power differential.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, you bring up another key point here, which is we are always more sensitive to the power differential looking up at those that have some power over us.
Yep.
And we sometimes completely miss it looking down at those we have some power over to us. And you know, I mean, you do this exercise and workshops and stuff like that, which is like, I don't know, getting people to think about, you know, their managers. And it's like, oh yeah, I definitely feel it with my manager. Mm-hmm. But looking down at my employees, no, I don't think they feel it. Right. Like we miss it.
Right. That's because my manager's kind of mean, but I'm a nice guy, you know, but that's not what it's about. Or it's partly what it's about. But so the power differential is that actual positional power, and it's not a good thing or a bad thing, it just is. And then it's exacerbated by just that thing called transference, right? It's exacerbated by the fact that I also, as an employee or as a human, have my own stories about authority that I brought with me to the workplace that are based on my childhood and all the other authority figures I've ever had, and
past bosses,
past teachers and coaches and religious leaders, and probably based on my own personality. You know, I have my own unconscious, usually, stories. And so you got the person who, you know, all 7 bosses they've had in their entire life have always been bullies. All 7 bosses.
What a coincidence.
Crazy coincidence, right? Well, it's likely that we're talking about something that's not true reality in the objective sense at that point. We're possibly talking about a story and a lens that this person is bringing with them throughout their life. So there's that on top of the actual power.
Yeah. And why are we talking about this? Meaning, why is it important that managers, anybody that has some managerial supervisory responsibility over others, recognize the power differential is there? It's a thing. Like, why is this at within the first several hours of our leadership development workshops?
I actually, believe it or not, have appreciated that even more lately. I think that, I'll say this in the negative, I guess, not recognizing your power differential has implications to almost every part of your relationship with that employee. Meaning that if you're not aware of the power differential versus if you are, you're going to make different choices in every way. So for example, how you give feedback to somebody, you're going to do that very differently. If I'm thinking we're just kind of quote peers and we're just buddies and, you know, and I don't have any extra power, I'm going to give this feedback a certain way, but I'm going to be a lot more careful and a lot more strategic if I have to factor in the power differential because I don't want to trigger your amygdala.
Yeah. I wonder if you can sharpen that up a little bit. So just taking that example, because I think that's the perfect example, giving somebody feedback. What might that feedback look like for a manager that was completely unaware or not thinking about the power differential versus someone that is very cognizant of this is a dynamic at play?
Yeah, I might, depending on my personality, I might, because I think we're kind of friends, I might say, God, were you asleep when you filled out the form? Like, look you totally missed this and that, and man, you must have had a hard night, I might approach it in kind of a funny, friendly, like I would with a buddy when they messed up, right? Now, you do that with a power differential and you insult somebody's work and imply that they were asleep.
Yeah.
Ouch. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
One more example. In a meeting, I might need to I'm sort of air traffic controlling the meeting. If I forget I have a power differential, I might be overly harsh. I might cut people off more often. I might say, hey, shut up, let them finish. I might. I'm not saying I would, but I'm just saying if I'm not aware of the power differential, I might not factor in that, wow, a way a manager talks to me in a meeting, that's huge.
Yeah.
They have the power there to humiliate me, basically, if they're not careful.
Right.
So,
one of the more, I don't know if ironic is the right word for this, but when I see someone not recognizing the power differential and they essentially throw their power in your face in a joking way,
yes.
How that lands. So, for example, giving somebody feedback, look, I need you to start doing it this way. Well, I don't understand why I need to do it that way. My way works. Because I'm the boss, right?
Right.
And it's like, haha, funny, but not really.
Right. Yeah.
And they might even laugh because,
you better laugh at the joke of the boss.
Yeah. And the higher you raise up in an organization, the funnier your jokes get, which is always interesting. That's what I found.
That's really true.
But yeah, I mean, that's just a simple, like, yes, obviously I'm acknowledging that I'm your boss, but I am not thinking of the fact that me throwing that in your face puts that person, again, consciously or subconsciously, into self-protection mode. They probably go into fear mode, and they probably like, yeah, that's true. You are the boss of me, and I don't want to then push on this any further, and now I shut down what could have been a productive conversation around, there might be a different way to approach this in the way you're thinking about it.
Yeah. I another example would be going back to feedback. Like how frequently am I giving feedback to an employee? The fact is getting corrective feedback from a manager is a big deal just because of the power differential. And if I think it's my job as a manager to make you 100% who I think you should be and make you perfect and give you feedback every time you don't dot an I, if that's my style, I might not even be aware of how much damage I'm doing. And the feedback might be given very well. I might be giving it carefully and kindly. But the fact is, I'm taking a power differential and adding feedback, 5 times a week.
Yeah.
That's going to hurt the relationship.
Yeah. And of course, none of this implies, and we've talked about this in past episodes, I'm sure we'll talk about it in future episodes, but it's, none of this imply that, because there's this power differential, you need to never do not to use your authority. The reality is you're in a management position. You sometimes need to ask people to do something differently. You have to give hard feedback. You have to be able to give an honest performance review, right? You have to say, unfortunately, we can't, I do need you occasionally to have to work a little bit later or whatever it might be, right?
You have to set expectations. You have to direct. You have to, the power differential is actually there for a reason.
Right. So the idea with everything we're saying here is not that it's a bad thing, as you said, right? Not that it's even a good thing. It just is a thing, and it starts with an awareness of it. Okay? So I think if our listeners were to walk away with a few key pieces from this episode, it is the power differential is a thing, and it's there whether you think it is or not. We're always more sensitive to the power differential looking up than looking down, and it's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And you often have to use the power differential in a way that's appropriate, that's not going to cause damage and not going to harm the psychological safety around you.
Yeah. And I think I would say the last thing would be then just think of it as almost a mathematical formula. Anything you do with the power differential adds another 50% of intensity maybe to that thing. And so that maybe is a way to kind of calibrate a little bit.
Yeah, to recognize that as you're approaching the conversations, you have, when you're having those conversations in which you are having to actually utilize your power differential a little bit to make sure you're not exaggerating it. All right. Well, let's leave it there.
Good.
All righty. Bye.
Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you. Hey, folks, wait. Don't go yet. Please, stay with me for 1 second here. I want to let you know about a couple cool little goodies that we have available for you. If you dig this podcast, you will probably also dig our Managing with Mind and Heart newsletter. This is a monthly newsletter where we share articles that we write about, hey, how to thrive as a manager, how to lead teams that are characterized by high morale, engagement, psychological safety, care and respect, collaboration, and high performance. You can sign up for this newsletter by texting the word leading to the number 66866. Additionally, you can go to our website and sign up for the newsletter there. Our website is www.nashconsulting.com. And of course, if you're not already aware, we have our cornerstone program for leaders and managers, and it is called Managing with Mind and Heart. Go figure. This program is something that we often bring into organizations to work with all their leaders on helping them get aligned and singing off the same sheet of music with best practice management skills and behaviors. We've brought this to hundreds of organizations at this point with really good results. And if you are not able or inclined to bring our program in-house, twice a year, in the spring and in the fall, we offer this 6-day Managing with Mind and Heart leadership development program online for anybody that would like to sign up and join us. To learn more about this online course and to register, you can go to our website. Once again, that's nashconsulting.com. Or send us an email at contact@nashconsulting.com. All right, that's all. That's it. See you later. Bye.